I was Ethan's secret wife. He brought his new girlfriend, Khloe, onto a dating reality show, and trending topics were flooded with praise for them as a match made in heaven. Kevin delivered the divorce agreement, relaying his words. Mr. Ethan says to stop pestering him. He wants to leave you with one last shred of dignity. In the reflection of the dating reality show's live broadcast camera, I dialed a number. Dad, I said, the game is over. I want Vance to disappear before dawn. In the spacious living room, the large screen TV was broadcasting the hit dating reality show, Love. My husband, Ethan, was tenderly placing a diamond necklace worth millions around the neck of popular actress Khloe. The host prompted, Ethan, anything you'd like to say to Khloe? Ethan held Khloe's hand. The camera zoomed in for a close-up of his incomparably handsome profile, and his voice, transmitted through the speaker, filled the entire room, clear yet distant. Khloe is the one I want to spend my life with. The entire venue erupted in screams, and the live chat went wild. OMG. The Ethan-Khloe pairing is real. The real deal is showering us with sweetness. It's deadly. So incredibly sweet. Can that obsessed fan, Grace, just disappear? She's always going on about being Mrs. Vance. Doesn't she ever look in the mirror? I watched the familiar face on the screen, expressionless. For 3 years, the owner of that face had slept beside me every night. He would kiss my forehead in the mornings, brew me ginger tea during my period, and gently call me Grace. Now, he had bestowed all that tenderness upon another woman. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Ethan's assistant. Grace, Mr. Ethan asked me to send this over. Are you home? Attached below was a picture of the divorce agreement. I replied with a single word, yes. Half an hour later, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Kevin, the assistant, standing there, his expression complicated, unable to meet my G's. He handed me a document and whispered, Grace, Mr. Ethan says. Signing this would be best for everyone. I took the thin stack of papers. The 5 stark characters, divorce agreement on the top page stung my eyes. The asset division section was clearly laid out. I would leave with nothing. As compensation, he would give me an old, dilapidated house in the suburbs and $1 million in cash. How generous. The wife of the CEO of Vance, 3 years of marriage, worth only $1 million. Mr. Ethan also said, Kevin spoke with difficulty, he hopes she'll stop claiming to be his wife, as it's causing trouble for him and Ms. Khloe. He wants to leave you with one last shred of dignity. Dignity? I let out a soft laugh, though my eyes were starting to sting. I looked up, my gaze sweeping past Kevin to the large decorative mirror on the wall behind him. In the mirror, the scene from the living room TV was reflected. Ethan was holding Khloe's hand, basking in the blessings of the entire internet. And I was like a clown lurking in the shadows. I pulled out my phone and, in front of Kevin, dialed a number I knew by heart. The call was quickly answered. A steady, doting male voice came through the line, My dear daughter, finally remembered to call your dad? Dad, I said, my voice calm, I don't want to play anymore. There was a moment of silence on the other end, followed by a soft chuckle. Alright, if my dear daughter doesn't want to play, then we won't. The attack on Vance can begin, I enunciated slowly, my voice quiet, yet it made Kevin's face instantly drain of color. Remember, I want him bankrupt. No problem, my father's voice was full of indulgence. Before dawn, I'll let you see the grandest fireworks show. I hung up the phone, tore the divorce agreement into tiny pieces, and let them fall at Kevin's feet. Go back and tell Ethan, I said, looking into his frightened eyes, a brilliant smile on my face, I don't want his dignity. The game is over, eh? And it's time for reckoning. I closed the door, shutting out Kevin's stunned gaze. My phone began to vibrate wildly, notifications popping up one after another. Shocking. Vance stock mysteriously crashed within 3 minutes of opening, instantly evaporating tens of billions. Major. Vance core tech team has collectively resigned, jumping ship to their biggest competitor, Global Solutions. Exclusive. Vance largest investor, overseas Sterling, has announced a full divestment and is suing Vance for breach of contract. Each headline was more explosive than the last. On TV, Ethan and Khloe were still sweetly interacting, oblivious to the storm about to break. I poured myself a glass of red wine, leaned back on the sofa, and watched quietly. This was just the appetizer. My phone rang, a sharp, insistent sound. It was Ethan. I hung up. He called again, and I hung up again. After several attempts, he likely lost patience and sent a text message. Grace, what game are you playing? I replied unhurriedly. A wedding gift for you. Do you like it? His reply was almost instantaneous, every word seething with rage. Who do you think you are? Do you really believe you can shake Vance? Stop these childish games, immediately. I smiled. Who am I? I am William's only daughter, the sole heir to Sterling. Sterling, an empire so wealthy it could rival nations, capable of sending tremors through the global economy. 3 years ago, to escape an arranged family marriage, I ran away from home and, by a twist of fate, saved Ethan, who was being hunted by his enemies. He asked for my identity. I told him my name was Grace, that I had no parents, and was an orphan. He believed me and vowed to take care of me for life. So we got married. I reigned in all my brilliance, willingly dedicated myself to being a homemaker, and became the unseen shadow behind him. I thought this was what it meant to marry for love. Now, it just seems like a cruel joke. The doorbell rang again, this time urgent and violent, as if intending to rip the door off its hinges. I looked through the peephole. It was Kevin, back again, his face drenched in sweat, his expression anxious. Grace, please open the door. Mr. Ethan's calling. Something big has happened at the company. I didn't open the door. Instead, I turned and walked into my walk-in closet. Inside, one half was filled with Ethan's expensive custom suits, the other with t-shirts and jeans I'd bought from a bargain bin. I tossed my few cheap clothes into a suitcase and left everything else untouched. That included all the jewelry he'd given me, sitting on the dressing table. Those things, just like him, were tainted. My phone was still ringing tirelessly. I blocked Ethan and Kevin, took out my SIM card, snapped it in half, and tossed it into the toilet. Then, I changed into a sharp black suit, applied sophisticated makeup, and, pulling my suitcase, left through the back door of the home I had lived in for 3 years. Outside the mansion, a line of black Rolls-Royces had been waiting for some time. The lead chauffeur respectfully opened the car door for me. Miss, welcome home. I settled into the car, and it smoothly drove away. In the rearview mirror, the beautiful mansion grew smaller and smaller, eventually becoming a blurred silhouette. Just like my ridiculous marriage to Ethan. On my new phone, there was a new message from my assistant. President, all of Vance partners have unilaterally terminated their contracts. Banks are refusing loans, 3 of their largest projects are halted, and by 9 a.m. tomorrow, a court summons will be delivered to Ethan. I replied with a single word, good. Then, I opened the live stream of the dating reality show. Ethan was no longer on camera. The tide in the live chat had completely turned. Is Industries going bankrupt? Oh my god. Is this for real? Khloe's fate is just too unfortunate, isn't it? Just officially revealed, and already about to become the wife of a bankrupt man? Am I the only one wondering who's taking down Vance? This is an enormous operation, overnight. The next day, I appeared in the conference room at the company headquarters as the new Asia-Pacific of Sterling. Outside the enormous floor-to-ceiling windows lay the bustling financial district. Before me stood a row of trembling company executives. They all knew that the colossal business empire behind me was responsible for Vance's overnight collapse. President, regarding the follow-up matters for Vance's bankruptcy liquidation. Acquire all viable assets, I interrupted him, my voice devoid of emotion. As for Ethan himself, I want him burdened with all the debts, never to recover for the rest of his life. Yes, madam. After the meeting, my private lawyer entered. Ms. Grace, Ethan wants to see you. He's been waiting downstairs for 3 hours. I won't see him. He said if you don't see him, he'll just keep waiting. I glanced up, looking out the window. Indeed, a familiar figure stood by the fountain in the plaza downstairs. The once spirited Vance CEO was now wearing a crumpled suit, his hair disheveled, his face drawn, looking like a beaten dog. Khloe was nowhere to be seen by his side. Everyone for themselves when disaster strikes, how true to form. I picked up the intercom. Security? Please escort Mr. Fu downstairs away. If he refuses, call the police and report him for harassment. I hadn't expected Ethan to actually have the nerve to barge up here. He must have gotten an employee card from somewhere. Bursting past security and kicking open my office door. Grace! His eyes bloodshot, he stared at me, like a cornered beast. Why, he roared. Why are you doing this? Are you going to destroy our 3 years of history? Seeing him like this, I suddenly found it quite amusing. Feelings? I picked up my coffee, gently blowing on the steam. Which feelings is Mr. Ethan referring to? The public display of affection between you and Khloe in front of the whole nation? Or the sentiment behind dismissing your lawful wife with a mere $1 million? Ethan's face cycled through shades of green and white. He rushed to my desk, braced his hands on it, and leaned forward, trying to intimidate me with his presence. That's different. She and I were just what? I met his gaze directly. Just playing a part? Ethan, you might fool others, but can you fool yourself? You investigated me? He seemed to realize something, a flicker of alarm in his eyes. Who exactly are you? Who I am doesn't matter, I said, standing up and walking over to him. I reached out and tidied his disheveled collar, my movements as gentle as they once were. What matters is, you now have nothing. His body stiffened. I leaned in close, whispering so only we could hear. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you. The first thing I did after acquiring Vance was blacklist Khloe. She won't be appearing on screen ever again. Ethan's pupils constricted sharply. Khloe's future seemed to pain him more than his own bankruptcy. He suddenly grabbed my wrist, his grip so powerful it felt like he wanted to crush my bones. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. I pulled my hand away, returned to my desk, and sat down, my expression as indifferent as if I were looking at a stranger. Ethan, your biggest mistake was crossing me. Grace. He looked at me, his eyes a mix of hatred and bewilderment. Why did you fake it? You clearly have such a background, why pretend to be an orphan to get close to me? What exactly did you want? What did I want? I once wanted your love, a home. Now, I want nothing. I only want to see you suffer, to watch you fall from grace into the mud, never to recover. Get out. I pressed the intercom. Security, drag him out. Several large security guards rushed in, grabbing Ethan by each arm. He continued to struggle and roar defiantly, Grace. You liar. You lunatic. You'll regret this. The office door slammed shut, and finally, the world was quiet. I leaned back in my chair, closed my eyes, feeling a wave of exhaustion. My phone rang. It was my father. Grace, is everything handled? That kid, he didn't do anything to you, did he? No. I smiled. Dad, I want to come home for dinner. Okay, I'll have the kitchen make your favorite sweet and sour pork ribs. My father's voice was full of tenderness. I hung up the phone and looked out at the bustling city beyond the window. This 3-year farce had finally come to an end. I thought that would be the end of it. But to my surprise, Khloe actually sought me out. She arranged to meet me at a cafe, her face bare, her eyes red and swollen, looking utterly vulnerable. Ms. Grace, she began, her voice thick with tears, please, let Ethan go. Everything is my fault, I was infatuated. Come after me, just don't target him anymore. I stirred my coffee, saying nothing. He has nothing left, and he's drowning in debt. Those debt collectors are driving him crazy, she continued, tears streaming down her face. I know I have no right to ask, but I love him, and I can't just stand by and watch him be destroyed. Love? I looked up, finding it ironic. On the very first day of his bankruptcy, you severed all ties with him. Is that what you call love? Khloe's face went pale, and her lips trembled, unable to form words. Drop the act. I took a check from my bag and pushed it across the table to her. Here's $5 million. Take it, get out of this city, and never appear before us again. She looked at the check, a flicker of greed in her eyes, quickly replaced by a sorrowful expression. No, I don't want the money. She shook her head. I just want Ethan to be okay. Ms. Grace, I know you still love him, otherwise you wouldn't hate him so much. You had 3 years together, can you really bear to see him homeless? Her words, surprisingly, made me pause. How did she come to the conclusion that I still loved Ethan? Ms. Grace, give him another chance, and give yourself one too, Khloe pleaded, taking my hand. He knows he made a mistake, and now he only has you in his heart. Is that so? I pulled my hand away, took a sip of coffee. Did he send you? Khloe's gaze darted away for a moment, then she nodded firmly. Yes. He said he was too ashamed to face you, so he sent me to beg for you. I smiled. Ethan, a man so arrogant to his core, would beg a woman he despised? He would only believe I used some underhanded methods to bring him to this state. He couldn't hate me fast enough. Miss Khloe, I set down my coffee cup, leaning slightly forward. Do you perhaps think I'm an easily fooled idiot? Khloe's expression froze. Do you really think I don't know that you've been entangled with his company's VP behind Ethan's back? Do you think I don't know that after you got resources from him, you immediately handed them over to your secret lover? With every word I spoke, Khloe's face grew paler. Your so-called love, I asked, staring into her terrified eyes, enunciating each word, is enjoying the fame and fortune Ethan gave you, while simultaneously cheating on him? How? How did you know? Her voice trembled as if she'd seen a ghost. Not only do I know all this, I said, pulling out my phone and playing a video, placing it in front of her. I also know that 3 years ago, when Ethan was being hunted by his enemies, you deliberately led him astray, almost getting him killed. The video showed Khloe making a deal with a man. That man was the leader of the group that had hunted Ethan 3 years ago. Khloe watched the video, all color instantly draining from her face, and she slumped back in her chair. Who are you? She stared at me as if I were a devil. I put away my phone and stood up gracefully. Someone who can ruin your reputation and make you spend the rest of your life behind bars. Just as Khloe was being led away by the police, Ethan arrived. He saw Khloe's disgraced appearance as she was handcuffed, then he saw me standing by, my expression cold, and he seemed to understand everything in an instant. He rushed over, not to confront me, but to fix his gaze on Khloe. Is what she said true? 3 years ago, you were the one who harmed me? Khloe's face was ashen, and she remained silent. Silence was the best answer. Ethan's body swayed, his face a mask of utter collapse and disbelief. The woman he had loved for so many years, even abandoning his wife for her, had been using him all along, even trying to kill him. And the wife he had personally pushed away was the very person who had saved his life in his most desperate hour. How ironic. Why? Ethan murmured, as if asking Khloe, or perhaps himself. I had no interest in watching their melodrama unfold and turned to leave, but suddenly grabbed my wrist. Grace, his voice was hoarse, tinged with a plea. I'm sorry. I turned back, looking at him calmly. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have doubted you, shouldn't have hurt you. I was wrong, truly wrong. A glimmer of moisture appeared in his bloodshot eyes. Can you give me another chance? A chance? I gently pulled my hand away. Ethan, the moment you decided to parade your affection for her in front of the entire nation, we were over. No, it's not over. He grabbed my shoulders agitatedly. Grace, you're the one I love. It's always been you. Being with Khloe was just because she resembled you a little. His words truly astounded me. So he found a look-alike, and now he's saying that to the original? Ethan, I said, looking at him as if he were a giant joke, do you think saying all this has any meaning now? Yes. Of course, it does, he said urgently. Grace, I know I was wrong, and I'll change. Every day since you left, I've thought about you. The apartment without you is cold, completely devoid of any homey feeling. I miss your cooking, your scent, every single day and night we spent together. He began to enumerate our past intimate moments, trying to awaken any lingering affection in my heart. But he didn't know that my heart had died the moment he handed me that divorce agreement. Are you done? I waited for him to finish before speaking coldly. If you're done, move aside. You're blocking my way. Ethan's expression froze. He probably hadn't expected his pleas, delivered with complete abandonment of dignity, to be met with such cold indifference. Grace. Mr. Ethan, I cut him off, deliberately distancing myself. Please understand, we are divorced. I am now the CEO of Sterling, and you are merely a bankrupt man burdened with tens of billions in debt. Between us, there's a chasm as wide as heaven and earth. Every word was like a knife, plunging deep into his heart. His face was ashen, and he swayed precariously. I won't give up. He looked at me, a flicker of obsessive madness in his eyes. Grace, you're mine, and you always will be. Even if I have to use every means possible, I'll take you back. With that, he turned and stumbled away. Watching his defeated back, I felt no satisfaction, only an overwhelming sense of annoyance. Like a stubborn pest I couldn't shake off. I had underestimated Ethan's obsessiveness. He began to harass me in various ways. He'd ambush me outside my company, wait for me at my doorstep, even bribe the media to spread false news of us rekindling our romance. Shocking. Sterling CEO and bankrupt ex-husband rumored to reconcile, returning to Love Nest late at night. The accompanying news photo was a blurry image of him forcibly embracing me when I wasn't looking. Suddenly, rumors spread like wildfire. Everyone said that I, the Sterling heir, was blinded by love, still hung up on a scumbag who had betrayed me. Even the company's stock price was slightly affected. Dad, my father called, his voice full of worry. Should Dad intervene and make him disappear for good? No, Dad, I rubbed my temples. I'll handle my own affairs. I didn't want to rely on my family's power anymore. To deal with someone like Ethan, I needed to use my own methods to make him give up completely. I arranged to meet Ethan at the abandoned factory where we first met. He arrived as agreed, a triumphant smile on his face, as if he thought I had finally changed my mind. Grace, I knew it. You still have feelings for me. He opened his arms, intending to embrace me. I stepped back, evading him. Ethan, let's settle this, I said, looking at him with icy eyes. You said you wanted to take me back, didn't you? I'll give you a chance. He froze. I took a dagger from my bag and threw it at his feet. 3 years ago, I saved your life here. Today, give me that life back, and we'll be even. Ethan looked at the dagger on the ground, his smile slowly fading. Grace, what? What do you mean by this? Don't you understand? I sneered. Either you stab yourself, or I'll do it for you. His face turned ghastly. Are you insane? I'm not insane, I said, advancing on him step by step. You drove me insane. Ethan, I gave you chances, but you threw them away. You destroyed my love, my home, and now you want to ruin my career and my reputation. Do you think I'll still go easy on you? My intensity forced him to retreat again and again, until his back hit the cold wall, leaving him nowhere else to go. Grace, we don't need to go this far, he tried to placate me. I know I made a mistake, I truly do. Too late. I picked up the dagger from the ground, aiming its sharp tip at his heart. Do it, I said. Don't make me look down on you. Fine beads of sweat broke out on his forehead, and his body trembled slightly with fear. He looked at me, then at the dagger, his eyes filled with struggle and terror. He couldn't do it. This man, who claimed to love me enough to give up everything, didn't hesitate to choose himself when faced with death. My last ridiculous flicker of hope was completely extinguished. Coward. I withdrew the dagger and turned to leave. Behind me, Ethan, as if utterly drained, slid down the wall to the floor, gasping for breath. I didn't look back. From today forward, the name Ethan would be completely erased from my world. I thought the storm would finally settle. But to my surprise, a much larger conspiracy was brewing in the shadows. Sterling was suddenly subjected to an unprecedented attack. The tactics were swift and ruthless, each move fatal, like a vast net woven long ago, just waiting for us to fall into it. The company's stock price plummeted, several critical overseas projects ran into trouble one after another, and traders emerged frequently. In an instant, all of Sterling was plunged into a massive crisis. My father rushed back from overseas to take command, but the situation remained grim. The opponent's power was unfathomable, even superior to Sterling's. Have we found out who's behind this? My father's face held a gravity I had never seen before. My assistant shook his head. They're very well hidden. All money flows have been converted dozens of times, making them untraceable. Their operational methods are very similar to yours, even more cunning. My father's pupils suddenly constricted. My heart sank as well. A terrifying thought surfaced in my mind. Just then, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I answered. A familiar, smiling voice came from the other end. Grace, long time no see. Do you like this big gift I sent you? It was Ethan. No, that wasn't right. Though his voice was the same, his tone and aura had completely transformed. It was no longer the obsessive, desperate beaten dog, but the posture of a king, orchestrating everything, in complete control. Who exactly are you? I asked, my voice low. A soft chuckle came from the other end of the line. Who I am doesn't matter, he said. What matters is, your father's good days are over. What is your relationship with Ethan? Oh, him? The voice held a hint of disdain. He was just a pawn, a tool I used to get close to you and test your father. My Art instantly plummeted to rock bottom. A pawn. The word hit like a bullet, accurately piercing my last line of defense. My phone slipped from my stiff fingers, hitting the carpet with a dull thud. My world, too, collapsed with that muffled sound, then began to reassemble. Everything made sense now. Why would a proud and arrogant man like Ethan fall in love at first sight with a supposed orphan, even going so far as to secretly marry her? Why our married life was filled with deliberate tenderness, yet always separated by an invisible veil? Why he could abandon me without a second thought, turning to put on a nationally broadcast show of affection with Khloe. It turned out that, from beginning to end, he was nothing more than a pawn. And I was the target of checkmate on that board. Grace? My father's voice pulled me back from the icy abyss. He had, at some point, come to stand beside me, his broad hand resting on my shoulder, conveying steady strength. I looked up, meeting his eyes, which were filled with worry. Dad, I think we've stumbled upon a lunatic. I recounted the phone call's contents to my father, word for word. In the study, the atmosphere was so heavy it felt as if water could drip from it. The assistant team furiously typed on keyboards nearby, and bad news converged like snowflakes, projected onto the massive screen. 3 major partners in the European market simultaneously broke contracts, citing force majeure. The American mining project was urgently halted by the local government, and the person in charge is missing. Our highest-level insider in the rival company had their identity exposed and was kicked out. Each piece of news struck precisely at Sterling's vulnerable point. The opponent's attacks were swift, precise, and ruthless, without a single wasted move, like an experienced hunter patiently setting traps, then pulling in the net in an instant. These operational methods. My father stared at the plummeting stock price curve. On the screen, his brow deeply furrowed. They bear my signature, but they are more ruthless, more reckless than mine. He turned to look at me, his expression more serious than I had ever seen it. Grace, there's more to Ethan, the man you married, than meets the eye. I forced a bitter smile. He's not just complicated, he's a puppet. A pathetic wretch who doesn't even know he's a pawn. How could the man who was so terrified he nearly wet himself from a dagger in that abandoned factory possibly devise such an elaborate plan? He didn't have the brains for it, nor the audacity. The family, my father murmured, walking to the massive floor-to-ceiling window, looking at the city enveloped by night. I fought with the previous generation of the Vance family for half my life, bringing them down from their peak. I thought they had no chance of recovering. He suddenly turned, walked quickly to his desk, picked up an encrypted phone, and dialed a number. George, I need you to look into someone. The family, are there any other children besides Ethan? The other end of the line was silent for a long time, so long I almost thought the signal had been lost. Mr. William, an aged voice came through, tinged with uncertainty. The family had twins back then. The elder brother was Arthur, and the younger brother was Ethan. But that elder brother, he died 15 years ago in an overseas car accident. Car accident? My father's voice suddenly sharpened. Yes, the news was quite sensational at the time. Reportedly, there were no remains. He hung up the phone, his face profoundly grim. No remains. He repeated the 4 words, slamming his fist hard on the desk. What a cunning escape. We were all fooled. I understood everything in an instant. Arthur. The man on the phone, the one calmly orchestrating everything with a disdainful tone, it was him. The man who should have died 15 years ago had been dormant in the shadows for 15 years, just for this day, to launch his deadliest revenge against the Sterling family. And, his twin brother, pushed into the limelight, was the perfect pawn he used to get close to me, to plant right beside the heart of the Sterling family. He knew all of Ethan's weaknesses: vanity, arrogance, lust, stupidity. He might even have orchestrated Ethan and Khloe's romance himself, solely to deliver a fatal blow when I was at my most painful and vulnerable. What profound cunning, what cruel methods! My heart throbbed with a dense, aching pain, not for that ridiculous marriage, but for my 3 years of foolishness. I thought I was falling in love with a man. In reality, I had been sharing my bed with a devil. He's aiming for a cruel psychological blow, I said, looking at my father, my voice frighteningly calm. He attacked the company to break you. He used Ethan to deceive me, to destroy me. He wants us, father and daughter, to be ruined, to lose everything. He's too arrogant. A cold gleam flashed in my father's eyes. If he had stayed hidden in the dark, we might truly have been helpless. But he couldn't resist making that call. He wants to witness our suffering and struggles firsthand. That's his weakness. I finished my father's sentence. My father and I exchanged glances, instantly understanding each other's thoughts. A revenger who had lain dormant for 15 years, his greatest weapon was mystery, and his greatest weakness was his arrogant heart, eager to taste the fruits of victory. Dad, in a conventional business war, we've already lost the first move, I said, walking to the giant city model. I looked at the Sterling model, already surrounded by countless red arrows. We can't follow his script. What do you have in mind? Arthur's blade is Ethan, I said, reaching out and picking up the small pawn representing Ethan from the board. Now, this blade needs a new owner. My father looked at me, his eyes showing both relief and admiration. My daughter has truly grown up. He picked up the intercom, his voice regaining its usual steadiness and authority. Notify all departments. Effective immediately, all decisions for Sterling will be made solely by Vice Grace. My command is her command. He hung up the phone, entrusting the entire battlefield to my hands. Without a moment's hesitation, I immediately called my chief assistant. Amy, activate project. Amy paused for a moment on the other end, then replied, yes, President. Hive was the intelligence network I built with my own hands 3 years ago, independent of Sterling, answering only to me. It was my last trump card, prepared for myself. I thought I would never have to use it. Target, Ethan. My voice was devoid of warmth. I want to know his every move for the past 24 hours, precise to the second. I want every person he met, every word he said. Turn every stone, find him for me. Understood. After making all the arrangements, I walked to the window, looking at this city I once knew so intimately. Now, in my eyes, it had become a giant chessboard. And I, finally, transformed from a pawn to be manipulated into the hand that moved the pieces. Arthur, do you think you've won? You destroyed my love, I'll destroy your pawns. You touched my family, I'll overturn your chessboard. This game has only just begun. My phone screen lit up, it was the first report from Amy. A photo, taken an hour ago. At the entrance of the most luxurious private hospital in the city center, Ethan paced anxiously back and forth. Standing beside him was Khloe's agent. A small line of text was written on the report: Khloe attempted suicide by slashing her wrists but is now out of danger. I looked at Ethan's haggard yet deeply emotional face in the photo and suddenly felt utterly ironic. His brother, Arthur, was out there creating a huge storm, ready to overturn the entire world. Yet he, this crucial pawn, was still heartbroken over another woman's tears. How pathetic and ludicrous. I picked up my phone. And sent Amy a second instruction. Prepare a grand gift and send it to the hospital. In my name. Inside the VIP ward of the private hospital, it was quiet enough to hear a heartbeat. Ethan stood by the bedside, looking at Khloe's pale face and the thick bandages wrapped around her wrist. A pang of anguish shot through his heart. Even knowing about her partial betrayal, seeing her try to win him back this way, his heart softened. Perhaps she had her reasons. Just then, a knock came at the ward door. A man in a sharp black suit walked in, followed by two assistants. Together, they carried an enormous gift box, tied with a delicate black ribbon in an extravagant bow. Excuse me, is Mr. Ethan here? The man at the front asked in a formal tone. Ethan stood up, frowning. I am. This is a gift from Ms. Grace for you and Ms. Khloe, to congratulate you both. A match made in heaven. After speaking, the man gave a slight bow and promptly left with his assistants. A match made in heaven? Ethan looked at the gift box, larger than a coffin, and a chill crept up from his feet. He walked over, tore open the ribbon, and opened the lid. Inside, there were no flowers, no jewelry. Only an ultra-thin LCD screen, resting silently on black velvet. The screen was on. It was continuously playing a video, the complete footage of Khloe's transaction with the assassin leader, with clear audio and high-definition visuals. Next to the video were beautifully framed paper documents. There were copies of contracts showing Khloe transferring company resources to her lover behind his back. There were intimate photos of her and Vance's vice president, spanning the entire duration of their relationship. And a detailed fund flow report, documenting how, 3 years ago, she had systematically led his enemies to his hiding place. Every piece of evidence was like a red-hot branding iron, searing Ethan's eyes. Khloe, on the bed, saw it too. Her face, which had held a trace of sickly beauty, instantly lost all color, trembling like a leaf in the autumn wind. Ethan. Let me explain. It's not like that. Ethan didn't look at her. He reached out and picked up the topmost document. It was a paternity test report. The subjects of the test were Khloe and her lover, and the fetus in her womb. The fetus she claimed was Ethan's child and had recently miscarried. The result column read, 99.9999% probability of paternal relationship. It turned out even her suicide attempt was an act. Using another man's child to gain his last bit of sympathy. Ethan suddenly laughed. His shoulders shook with laughter, tears streaming down his face. He felt like the biggest fool, manipulated like a puppet, and foolishly hurting for her. Why? He finally turned his head, his voice unnervingly calm. Khloe was terrified by his demeanor. She struggled to get out of bed. Ethan, believe me, it's Grace. She forged it. She wants to harm us. Is that so? Ethan picked up the screen and walked step by step to her bedside. He leaned over, bringing the screen close to her eyes. Tell me, how did she forge this video? Huh? And these photos, these contracts, these transfer records, did she forge all of them? With every question he asked, Khloe flinched. And this child, Ethan pointed to the paternity report, his voice holding a broken quality, did she shove him into your womb too? Khloe completely broke down. She covered her face, letting out a piercing scream. Ethan looked at her, and the last trace of warmth vanished from his face. He placed the screen and all the documents, one by one, back into the enormous gift box. Then, he closed the lid and tied the black bow. Having done all this, he turned and walked away, not sparing Khloe another glance. Ethan. Where are you going? Don't leave. Are you abandoning me? Khloe's cries were muffled behind the closed door. Ethan walked out of the hospital entrance. The sunlight was blinding, but he felt a chilling cold all over. He pulled out his phone, his hands trembling, and dialed the number he had blocked long ago. The phone rang once, then was disconnected. Sterling's top office. I looked at the real-time hospital surveillance feed Amy had just sent, expressionlessly hanging up on Ethan's call. Get rid of all his contact information, I ordered Amy. I don't want to see this name again. Yes, President. My father, William, pushed open the door, holding a cup of warm milk. Is that puppet handled? Almost. I took the milk, and warmth spread from my hands to my heart. A pathetic waste who barely knows his own name has no more use. What about Arthur? I walked to the giant interactive map. The blue territory representing Sterling was still surrounded by dense red arrows, looking even more precarious than yesterday. He's very cautious. Even with all the Hive's resources, we could only trace his funds to an offshore foundation called Abyss. The registration information is forged. This man is like a ghost living in the network. Ghosts have to walk too. My father's fingertip gently tapped the map. He lay dormant for 15 years, he couldn't have left no trace. He must have a physical stronghold, a place where he gives orders. I've already sent Amy to investigate, I said, looking at a model of an old Vance family estate on the map, abandoned for many years. 15 years ago, after the Vance family's downfall, all assets were liquidated. Only this ancestral estate remained due to property disputes. My father nodded approvingly. The most dangerous place is often the safest. He's probably hiding there. So, what do we do now? No, I cut my father off. We can't go. Going now would tip him off. Arthur is an extremely arrogant madman. What he enjoys most right now is watching us cornered and struggling. The more we fight back, the more excited he gets. I picked up a black chess piece and placed it next to the model of the old estate. You can't use conventional methods against a madman. ASM. Irk played on my lips. I'll have his proudest creation destroy his own hideout. The night grew deep. Ethan wandered aimlessly through the streets like a lost soul. He had lost, utterly ruined, with nothing left. His company was gone, his money gone, the woman he loved was a liar, and the woman he hated, he didn't even have the right to see her. He didn't know where to go. Just as he reached an intersection, looking around in confusion, a black car pulled up beside him. The window rolled down, revealing a refined and elegant middle-aged man with gold-rimmed glasses. Is that Ethan? Ethan looked at him warily. I am Alfred, the Vance family's old butler, the man introduced himself. The old master instructed me before he passed away that if you ever fell on hard times, I should give you this. Alfred handed him an old wooden box and an envelope. Ethan took them and opened the envelope. Inside were a set of keys and an address. It was the Vance ancestral estate, abandoned for over 10 years. Like a man clutching his last lifeline, he immediately hailed a taxi and sped toward the address. The ancestral estate sat on a hill in the city's outskirts. The iron gate was rusty, the courtyard overgrown with weeds, exuding an air of decay. He opened the heavy gate with the keys and stepped inside. The house was covered in dust, and the smell of decay permeated the air. Following instructions, he found the study. In a secret compartment in the study, he found the wooden box. The box wasn't locked, he opened it easily. Inside was no priceless treasure, but a thick diary. On the flyleaf of the diary were two identical faces, two young boys in matching outfits, smiling innocently joyful. Ethan recognized them, it was him and his brother, Arthur. With trembling hands, he turned to the first page. The handwriting was unfamiliar, yet it held an unsettling familiarity. June 12, sunny. William, that old fox, finally took the bait. The family fell, but I'm still alive. From today Arthur no longer exists. August 3. Ethan is such a fool. A few sweet words and he's completely obedient to me. Good. An obedient puppet is easier to control. 3 years ago, the plan went smoothly. That fool Ethan almost died, but it didn't matter. My pawn, Grace, saved him. She fell in love with him, how laughable, falling for a tailor-made role. Ethan turned page after page, the blood in his veins seemed to freeze. It turned out his life, his proud commercial empire, his unforgettable love, even his every breath, had all been meticulously planned. He was not Ethan. He was merely his brother Arthur's shadow, a marionette manipulated for 15 years. On the last page of the diary, the date was yesterday. There was only one sentence. The game is coming to an end. It's time for this useless pawn to disappear from the chessboard. Thud. The diary slipped from Ethan's trembling hands, falling onto the dust-covered floor. The world spun, a sharp ringing echoed in his ears. His 15 years of pride, the commercial empire he built with his own hands, his presumed deep affection for Khloe, his condescending abandonment of Grace. Everything turned into a joke. A 15-year-long joke, woven by his own brother, Arthur. He was not Ethan. He was just a shadow named Ethan, a tool carefully groomed for revenge. He lunged at the wall, slamming his fists against it. His knuckles collided with the plaster, making a dull thud, and blood instantly soaked the wall. But he felt no pain. The physical pain was not even a fraction of his soul being slowly tortured. Why? He slid to the floor, leaning against the wall, like a cornered beast with its spine broken, letting out a desperate roar. Why me? The study door silently pushed open, and the man who called himself Alfred walked in. He didn't look at Ethan. Instead, he calmly took out a bottle of high-proof vodka and an old Zippo lighter from his jacket pocket, placing them on the dusty desk. The old master often said, Alfred's voice echoed faintly, sounding unnervingly eerie in the empty room, some things are too dirty, water won't clean them. You have to burn them. A single fire, to burn away all the ugliness and sin, and then you can welcome a new beginning. After he spoke, he turned and left, as if he had merely delivered 2 insignificant items. Ethan's gaze was fixed on the bottle of alcohol and the lighter. Just then, in the corner of the room, a speaker disguised as an ornament suddenly crackled with static. Immediately after, a voice, both familiar and strange to him, rang out, carrying a hint of mockery and condescending pity. My dear brother, have you finished reading the diary? Are you satisfied with your life? It was Arthur. Ethan's head snapped up, his bloodshot eyes scanning every corner of the room, as if searching for the demon hidden in the shadows. You. Where are you? Get out. I'm in every corner of your life, my dear brother, Arthur chuckled softly. Every piece of clothing you wear, every car you drive, every woman you sleep with, I chose them all for you. Including. She was the most perfect gift I gave to you, and to myself. You lunatic. Ethan roared. I'm crazy? No. Arthur's tone suddenly turned cold. It was you, it was William, who destroyed the Vance family, who destroyed everything I had. I'm merely taking back what belongs to me. And you're nothing but the most convenient weapon in my revenge plan. Why do you think Grace fell in love with you? Because I studied her for 3 years, I know her better than she knows herself. I made you appear when she needed help the most, I made you say what she most wanted to hear, I made you become the man she liked the most. What you thought was love was just a script I wrote for you. Every word was like poison-tipped steel needles, stabbing into Ethan's heart. As for Khloe, Arthur's voice was full of contempt, that unrefined sort, only a fool like you would cherish her. But it worked out. She successfully angered Grace, making this drama even more exciting. Your final value was perfectly served its purpose. Now, the show is over, and it's time for this blunt knife to be destroyed. The voice from the speaker came to an abrupt halt. A piercing alarm suddenly blared throughout the ancestral estate. Security system activated. Building will undergo physical purge in 10 minutes. Countdown initiated. The cold, mechanical female voice announced his impending death. Arthur meant to silence him, using this ancestral estate, which held all his childhood memories, as his tomb. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ethan suddenly burst into maniacal and despairing laughter, tears and snot streaming down his face. He staggered to his feet, grabbed the bottle of vodka from the desk, twisted open the cap, and frantically splashed the liquor everywhere in the study. He splashed it on the damn diary, on the plaques symbolizing the Vance family's glory, on the carpets where he and Arthur once played. A script? A gift? A chess piece? He muttered to himself, his eyes filled with a suicidal frenzy. If my life is a sham, then I'll burn it to ashes with my own hands. He picked up the Zippo lighter. With a click, a cluster of orange-yellow flames danced in the darkness. He looked at the tiny flame as if seeing his own pathetic and laughable life. He let go, allowing the lighter to drop onto the alcohol-drenched carpet. Whoosh! A dragon of fire instantly engulfed the entire study, spreading outwards at an astonishing speed. Sterling's top command center. On the giant screen, dozens of split screens showed real-time footage of the Vance ancestral estate. Flames surged from the study window, dyeing half the night sky red. He really lit it. My father, William, watched the screen, his expression complex. I held a cup of coffee, calmly watching the soaring flames. He didn't light it, I said. Arthur forced him to. Arthur is too arrogant. He thinks he's God, able to play with people's lives at will. but he forgot that even the most obedient puppet will fight back when cornered. On the screen, a figure stumbled out of the flames and was quickly subdued by my people lying in wait, hooded, and forced into a car. It was Ethan. This agents had already cracked Arthur's security system before Alfred even entered, and had planned Ethan's only escape route. What I wanted was not a corpse, but a living weapon, one that could be plunged into Arthur's heart. Amy walked over and handed me an encrypted phone. "President, it's connected." I took the call, listening to the slightly ragged breathing from the other end, tinged with fury. The corner of my mouth curved upward. "Arthur, good evening. Do you like the fireworks I sent?" "Grace." The voice on the other end had lost all its previous composure and mockery, replaced by a furious roar. "It's you. You designed all of this." "I wouldn't call it design," I leisurely blew on my coffee. "I merely tweaked the final act of the script you prepared for your brother. After all, a hero deserves a fitting exit, doesn't he? Do you think destroying my stronghold means you've won? You're too naive. I never expected to beat you with just a fire." I gently put down my coffee cup, then spoke into the phone. "I merely wanted to inform you that the rules of the game have changed." I made a gesture to the side. Amy understood my signal and brought a recording device to Ethan's mouth, who had just been brought in. "Ah." A pained, suppressed roar, transmitted through the current, clearly reached the other end of the line. Arthur's voice instantly froze. "You captured him? Don't put it so harshly." I walked over to Ethan, knelt down, looked into his bloodshot, desperate eyes, and gently wiped the ash from his face with a handkerchief. "I just think it's time this weapon you've used for 15 years found a new owner." I took the phone, held it to my lips, and said slowly and deliberately, in a voice only the two of us could hear, "Now, your weapon is in my hand." I decisively hung up the phone. In the command center, only the low hum of instruments remained. Ethan was held up by two men, like a heap of mud. His once spirited and ambitious eyes now held only emptiness and lifelessness. I walked over to him, looking down at him. "Two choices." My voice was soft, yet it was like a whip lashing at his trembling nerves. "First, I hand you over to the police. Arson, charged with several crimes, and you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. Your dear brother would probably be delighted to admire your stray dog appearance through the glass on visiting days." Ethan's body trembled violently, and a gurgling sound escaped his throat. "Second," I paused, savoring the fear that flickered across his face, "become my dog." He suddenly raised his head, his bloodshot eyes fixed on me. Humiliation and fury swirled in his eyes. "I'll help you get revenge," I continued, ignoring his anger. "Let you personally send your dear brother straight to hell. After it's done, I'll give you a sum of money to leave this country, change your name, and live out your remaining days in anonymity." A deathly silence fell over the command center. Everyone watched him, waiting for his answer. After a few seconds, Ethan's hate-filled eyes slowly lost all their light. His knees buckled, and he fell heavily to the floor before me. "I choose the second option." His head bowed deeply, his voice hoarse, like sandpaper rubbing. "Please, let me tear him apart." I smiled. "Good. A weapon without its own mind, fueled only by a desire for revenge, is the most effective weapon. Amy," I turned, not sparing him another glance. "Clean him up, get him some new clothes. Don't let his hideous state offend my sight." My father, William, walked out from the inner room, handing me a file. "These are all the public records for the Abyss Fund. Arthur's firewalls were too strong, we used every resource, but could only scratch the surf." Ace. I opened the file. It was filled with a dense network of shell companies and complex fund flow charts, like an inescapable trap. "Dad, you can't wait for a viper to bite you." I closed the file. "We have to take the initiative and lure it out of its hole." I walked to the giant interactive map, pointing to the model representing Sterling's headquarters. "Arthur's target, from beginning to end, has always been here. He enjoys the cat and mouse game, he wants to watch us be slowly driven to ruin. So, we'll put on a show for him." I looked at my father, my gaze intense. "I want you to collapse. My father was startled at first, then understood my intention, and a glint of cunning flashed in his eyes. "A stroke? Or a sudden heart attack?" "A stroke," I considered. "It better fit your current persona of under immense pressure and utterly exhausted. The news must be suppressed, but accidentally leak it to Arthur's informant within our ranks. And then?" Then, I looked towards the doorway, where Ethan, now dressed in clean clothes but still a shell of a man, stood. "It's time for my good dog to make his entrance." Half an hour later, Ethan was brought before me. I tossed an encrypted phone to him. "There's a number in there, your brother's most trusted financial advisor. and a secret pawn planted overseas. He'll report all information he deems valuable to Arthur through specific channels. Ethan gripped the phone, his knuckles turning white from the force. I want you to tell him that William has collapsed from a stroke, that Sterling is now being managed by me, his incompetent daughter who only knows how to flirt, and that the company is in utter chaos. Banks are calling in debts, executives are disloyal, shareholders are preparing a shareholder revolt. In short, paint the bleakest picture possible. I stared into his eyes. Remember, you only get one chance to perform. Channel all the resentment and despair from being deceived for 15 years. Don't disappoint me. Ethan said nothing, only nodded heavily. He dialed the number. The moment the call connected, his voice took on just the right amount of panic and collapse, as he dramatically recounted everything I had told him to say, with a tearful elaboration. His acting was so good it surprised even me. Perhaps, it wasn't acting at all. It was his most genuine emotion at that moment. After hanging up, he collapsed to the floor, as if drained of all strength. I ignored him and turned back to the command center. On the giant screen, the fund flow chart representing the Abyss Fund, after several hours of silence, suddenly began intense activity. Countless funds, scattered across the globe like countless streams, began frantically converging on a single point. He's taken the bait, Amy's voice carried a hint of excitement. He's gathering all his funds, preparing to deliver the final blow to Sterling. He wants to win too badly, I said, looking at the ever-expanding financial web, my eyes cold. 15 years of hidden patience has made him obsessed and arrogant. He thought that with my father's collapse, I'd be a fish on a chopping block, so he was impatient to show all his cards. My father walked to my side and patted my shoulder. Grace, the rest is up to you. I nodded, looking at the massive pool of funds that had finally converged on the screen. It was like a greedy beast, opening its gaping maw, ready to devour Sterling. And the central node of this financial web was an investment company recently registered in Switzerland. The legal representative column clearly written a name, Arthur. He had finally stepped out of the shadows. I picked up the red intercom on the command console, my voice clear throughout the entire command center. Amy, notify Swiss to freeze the accounts. Notify all our partnered law firms worldwide to file lawsuits against the Abyss Fund and its legal representative, Arthur, on multiple charges including financial fraud, hostile takeover, and unfair competition. Notify all the media we bought to write the 15-year feuds and intrigues of the Vance brothers into the scandal of the year, put it on global trending topics. I want his reputation utterly destroyed. I issued one command after another, calm and decisive. Finally, I called my chief assistant, watching the financial web on the screen plunge into chaos as the accounts were frozen. Activate the final plan. Close the net. The world seemed to press fast forward. On the giant screen in Sterling's command center, the red territory representing the Abyss Fund was disintegrating before our eyes. Exclusive. Mysterious magnate Vance's identity. The family's eldest faked death and escaped years. Financial. Swiss freezes of billions in Abyss Fund. Multiple launch investigation. Elite feud. Vance turn each. Younger upon an elder's revenge. 3-year stunning. The news swept across every corner of the globe like a virus. The name Arthur, after 15 years of disappearance, returned to public view in the most humiliating and disgraced manner possible. His financial chain was severed by my single stroke. All his escape routes were blocked by legal documents. His veil of mystery was shattered by public opinion. 15 years of hidden patience, 15 years of scheming, vanished into thin air the moment I pressed close the net. My private phone finally rang. It was Arthur. I answered and put it on speaker, so everyone in the command center could hear how hoarse and frantic this once god now sounded. Grace, you vicious woman. You'll meet a terrible end. From the other end of the phone, there was no longer the composed chuckle of a strategist, but an exasperated roar. I picked up the coffee that had long gone cold and took a small sip. Arthur, the game is over. You lost. I haven't lost. How could I lose to a woman like you? He screamed. I have a contingency plan. I can still turn the tables. Is that so? I see. Huckled softly. Are you referring to those old fools you planted on Sterling's board? Or those hackers you bribed to attack our system? I paused, then clearly told him, the former are currently being questioned by the authorities. The latter are being hunted down by the Global Alliance. Oh, and by the way, the local police should be arriving at your safe houses overseas soon. A deathly silence fell on the other end of the phone. All his cards had been revealed by me. How could this be? How could you possibly know all of this? His voice was filled with incredulous collapse. Because I stood up, walked over to Ethan, who was kneeling on the floor, and brought the phone to his mouth. Your most trusted weapon. From the very beginning, its blade was aimed at your own heart. Ethan lifted his lifeless face, spoke into the microphone, and with all his might, uttered 3 words. Arthur, I hate you. From the other end of the phone came a bestial wail, and then the signal was cut off. Everything was over. 3 days later, Arthur was apprehended at an abandoned dockside warehouse. When he was caught, he was haggard and frantic, still muttering, I haven't lost. He would face joint prosecutions from dozens of countries and a prison sentence long enough to make him spend the rest of his life behind bars. As for Khloe, she was taken away by the police the day after her hospital stay. Suspected of fraud, corporate espionage, and a 3-year-old assault case, a long time behind bars also awaited her. After handling all the follow-up matters for the company, I arranged to meet Ethan at dusk. The location was the entrance to our former home, that mansion. He stood there, wearing the clothes I had sent him. He had lost a lot of weight, his eyes hollow, like a soulless husk. I got out of the car and handed him a bank card and a passport. The money in here is enough for you to live out the rest of your life comfortably in any country. The passport and identity are brand new. He didn't take them, only looked at me. His lips moved for a long time before he spoke in a hoarse voice. Can we go back? I looked at him, as if I had heard a monumental joke. Ethan, I said calmly, the moment you went on that dating reality show with Khloe, making everyone in the country believe she was Mrs. Vance, we could no longer go back. The moment you sent that $1 million divorce agreement, trying to make me leave with nothing, we could no longer go back. There was never any love between us, only a complete and utter deception. And you are the most pathetic clown in this deception. I threw the bank card and passport into his hand. Get out. Never show your face to me again. After saying this, I turned and walked away, without a trace of hesitation. Behind me, I heard a suppressed, despairing cry. But I didn't look back. A month later, I held a global press conference as the new chairperson of Sterling. In the enormous conference hall, flashbulbs lit up like day. I stood at the center of the podium, facing the world's media, composed and confident. The shadow who once hid behind her husband, out of the spotlight, had completely disappeared. Standing here now was Grace, Sterling's sole heir, the new queen of this vast commercial empire. My father sat in the front row, watching me, his eyes filled with comfort and pride. After the press conference, I walked out of the building. The sun was bright, falling upon me, warm and luminous. I took off my sunglasses, looking at the bustling city, bustling with traffic and people. In the sky, a plane streaked across, leaving a long white contrail, flying towards an unknown distance. Just like my life. Free from all shackles and gloom, I could finally fly towards my own, broader sky.